Welcome to 2.1. We're talking about decimals and place values. So if you'll notice here, I have place values written out. Now we're used to, on the left side, this is the whole numbers on the left side. So this right here would just be three whole numbers. And we start with 3 ones, then we have tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, etc., etc. Now on the right side of the decimal is our partial of a whole. It's not whole numbers over here. They're part. It's kind of like the fractions of the wholes. And if you'll notice, we start with tenths. Two things to notice here. We do not have a ones, and we end all these with THS. So if the word ends with a THS, that means it's the partial over here. And so this would be, let me put my decimal back. This would be 6 tenths, 8 hundredths, 9 thousandths. So this is 3 ones. The word and for decimal, that's the only time you say the word and the place value is there. So over here we have 14 and this is 7 tenths, 8 hundredths, 6 thousandths, and this would be 2 10,000ths. So on Connect Math, they might ask you, as they have a underline here, what the underline is for, is they might say, what place value is that 8 in? And you would start with the decimal, you start tens, hundredths. So this would be 8 hundredths is this place value. This one over here is in the tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. Now, when we want to write the decimals, what that means is write it in words. If we can say these, then we can write them. Now, how we say it is we always start with the whole number. We say 3 and. So with this one, it would be 3 and is always the decimal. You cover up the decimal and you read this as if it was a whole number. How would you say 689? You wouldn't say 689. You would say 600. So I would write 689. And then whatever place value this last one is in is what you followed up with. So this 9 is in the thousands. So then you just put thousandths at the end. So looking at this second example here, we have 14. The decimal is and. Decimal is always an and. Cover it up. Read this just like if it was a whole number. So this would be 7,862. So we need to write down 7,862. 7,862. And then what's the place value of the 2? It is in the 10,000s. So we would write 10,000ths. Okay, sorry about my little chicken scratch down there. It's getting pretty bad. But that's how we would write them. If you can read them, you can write them with no problem. Remember, we start with the whole number first. Then we write and. We pretend it's a whole number and read it. And the place followed up with the place value of the last digit. All right, let's see what else we got here. We have to read some fractions next. So I'm going to take this away. And okay, we have a couple here. We're going to read these fractions. This is not 2 over 10. This would be read as 2 tenths. If we wanted to write this, we could write it as 2 tenths. But you also need to simplify this. If we wanted to write it as a decimal, it would be 0.2 because this 2 is in the tenths place value. So 2 over 10 would just be 2 tenths. Here, this is 38 100ths or 38 hundredths. And if we wanted to write this in decimal form, this 8 here needs to be in the hundredths place value. So it'd be 0.38, and that needs to be in the hundredths. Now you can only write the fractions just like this if you have denominators with powers of 10. Powers of 10 are 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, etc. So we just read this as 2 tenths. You can write this as a fraction, a decimal. 2 tenths. Make sure it's in the tenths place value. I got another one here, I believe. No, I don't. So we're going on to, if we can read them, we can write them. So That's not the one I want to do yet. So a few minutes ago, we were taking our decimals and writing them in word form. Now we're going to take the word form and write them as a decimal. Remember what I said about the and word? What do we put for and? We put a decimal. So what's on the left side stays on the left side. What goes on the right side stays on the right side. So let's start with this. This is our whole number. We have 255. So we would just write 255. On the right side, we write 61. And the last digit has to be in this hundreds. So I write down a 61 and make sure that this 1 is in the hundreds place value. Is it? What place value is this 6 in? That's in the tenths, then hundreds. This is the ones, tens, hundreds. Hundreds. Hundredths. This ends in THS. This ends in just the S. Okay, let's try to put another one down. Okay, so now we have 100 and 5 thousandths. What do we put at the and? We put a decimal. What's on the left stays on the left. What goes on the right stays on the right. So how do we write 100? Just 100, right? Not too hard there. Over here, cover this up, we write 5 thousandths. But that doesn't mean we write 5,000 down here. We need to have the 5 in the thousands place value. So let's just write down a 5 because that's what it says, 5. And let's check to see if this 5 is in the thousands place value. Well, here's the decimal. What's one place over? Tenths. That's not in the thousands. So we need to put some things to shove it over. How we do that is we put a 0. So now this is the tenths, hundredths. Nope, it wants to be in the thousands. So let's put another 0 to scoot it over. Tenths, hundredths, thousands. Yes, we got it in the thousands place. So remember to put those zeros in there very carefully because you want to make sure that this number is itself. With that being said, if I had something such as, oh, I need to write the word out, sorry. Okay, 32 and 16 thousandths. So once again, the and means decimal, 32 goes on the left, and then we have the word 16. So you write down 16. The last digit of 16, which is 6, needs to be in the thousands place value. Right now it's in the tenths, hundredths. So nope, I need to put a placeholder. Where am I going to put that 0 so that it stays 16? If you put it between here, is that 16? No, that's 32 and 106 thousandths. That's not 16. So we got to put this 1 back here, and I'll put a 0 here. So now this is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and this is 32 and 16 thousandths. Excuse me. Okay, we'll come back in a little bit with more from 2.1.